DevDojo. So hopefully we can um, give you an overview what quality assurance is in Mercari JP and how testing is being done. So basically, it's like a day in the life as a quality engineer. So Jay and I will be presenting for today's session. So let's proceed. So let me introduce myself first. So I'm Theo. My Slack name is at Theo. So I've been with Mercari for almost 9 months already. And I just recently came to Japan like 5 months ago or 6 months ago. And yeah, my primary role here in Mercari JP is I do both automation and manual. Automation, I automate iOS, web, and API. And for manual, I'm actually assigned to one of the camps, which is engagement and retention. It's under user growth. So it's nice to see everyone. And thank you for your time as well. So, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Theo. And hello, everyone. My name is Jay, and I joined Mercari in this April, so it's almost 7 months. And now I was assigned in the Camp Ops and in the CS tool, which is internal tool which used by the CS team to help answer the customer inquiry or something like that. And yeah, I also helping CS2 doing their manual tests and some automation as well. So for me, I stay in Japan for over 6 years, and I almost working on the automation testing and CI/CD stuff. And yeah, but I almost work in the web application. So after joining Mercari, I also start the iOS automation as well. Yeah, I think that's all. I'll pass back to Theo.
So, actually, that's one of like the answers as well. We want to slow down, but in reality, like in we will compare this in a software development flow. So actually, we add brakes to cars because we want to make it faster. So how do we make it faster though? Because we're adding brakes. So actually, without brakes, the car actually will move like in a constant speed. So because we're afraid to crash, so it's only like we're only slow. We're moving slowly. So adding brakes to it actually makes it faster because we have a a safety net. So this is similar with testing. So in the car itself is a software development cycle and the breaks itself are the tests. So we add tests to develop to the development cycle because we want to make it or we want to develop faster or we want to release faster. So some people like there are different insights wherein testing becomes a bottleneck during software development cycle because they're adding like bad test waste testing is a waste, but in reality this is actually helping us to prevent bugs or crashes from occurring. So we leverage different testing approach to be able to prevent crashes or bugs from occurring, as well as developing or deploying our application faster. So we both leverage automation and manual test to make sure our development cycle goes or process goes faster. So I hope this answers like or an overview of what testing is being done in the development cycle. So I hope this helps. I hope this analogy helps. So with that, so we will be covering several topics for today. So this is our agenda for today's QA session. So we will talk about the overall QA structure, the organization's structure. We will be talking about the QA process and also the environment we're using. We're going to talk about the release judgment. So, what we do before we release a new version of our application, and also teach you guys how to help us in testing the application. So, we have like how to download our app, how to run our automation tests. We will do a quick demo of what our automation tests are doing and a quick Q&A. So, feel free to interrupt or just raise your hand if you have any questions, or you can ask at the end as well. So about our MKJPQA team. So this is our overall organization structure. So we're in the umbrella of product engineering, but before we were out of engineering and we came back. So we are uh, we are divided into four sub teams. So we have our MOM, or manager of manager, which is EHAB. So he's overseeing all of the sub teams, and we have four sub teams. We it's over. Four managers are overseeing the sub teams, which are Udit, Augustine, Lester, and Yukanish. So under them are the QAs, including me and Jay, and all the business partners. So our business partners are helping us in our testing tasks as well. So almost like we're like 20 or more QAs in the team. So we're a lot. So the QA team. So this is our vision and mission. So our mission um or our vision is to meet customer requirements and expectation with a faster pace. So that's why our analogy before is a car, because we want to make the development cycle fast, because Mercari's development cycle is very fast. So we're releasing every week, and we need to make sure to create tests that can cope up with the fast development cycle. So we need to put in like valuable tests to make sure we're hitting the correct flow that the customer usually use, to avoid like bugs and crashes from reaching our customers. So the main point there is we prevent and reduce bugs from reaching our customers. So we want to ensure that, because in our mission, like, we focus on customer experience and maximize our product quality, because if we release like bad app to our customers, they will be unhappy, and if they're unhappy, they might look for other competitors, right? So we want to ensure that our quality, the application we're releasing is in quality, so that we will have no unhappy customers. So again, um, our role is to prevent from bugs from happening. Our testing is our role is to reduce or prevent bugs from happening or occurring. So increase testing quality across camps. So because camps usually create new features, so it's their responsibility, like individual camps, to handle the testing quality. So we need to make sure like the test coverage is also being met. So if new features are being added, we should take account um, those test coverage as well. Okay. So next is, so what is the QA focus area? So our focus area are to analyze and visualize product quality, and underneath that we build comprehensive quality assurance process and organization. So actually in QA, we're actually creating a QA process, because QA process is different between different camps. So we want to make a QA process that can cater for all camps. So in that, we also analyze bugs and incidents. So bugs coming from our customers or within the environment, also incidents. So based on that data, or on those bugs or incidents, we pinpoint where the weak points of the app is, and we focus testing on those points. So we're bringing in valuable tests, so that we make sure that these incidents or bugs will not happen in the future. So we're also implementing data driven. Like I said, we're analyzing based on data, which points of the application we need to focus testing on. So for example, there will be a new feature in listing or transaction. We need to create like tests for the for those areas for listing and transaction, so that we make sure like the existing functionality of the app is working as expected after merging a new feature. So with that, I want to share a software testing principle. So if if you guys don't know any software testing principle, there is a software testing principle. We have seven, and this is one of the most, I think, the most important one, which is the pesticide paradox. So what is a pesticide paradox? It is wherein, like in testing, we run the same test continuously on that specific point. So for example, we run a test like in sign up, and While they might confirm that the software is working as expected, but eventually, um, if we keep on running the same test on that same point, eventually they will fail to find new issues. So this is the pesticide paradox wherein we keep on running the test, we don't update our test for a new feature. It will confirm like the software is working, but we will miss out the other flows. Thus, it we will not find any bugs. So it is important to review our tests and modify it or add additional scenarios to prevent this from happening or to prevent the pesticide paradox from occurring. So yes, so we're also expanding our areas of quality assurance as well. Um, we're handling accessibility now and performance. We're tracking them as well. So we're actually expanding to different areas of quality assurance. And yeah, so we have a link here for our OKR. So if you're curious of what we're doing in this quarter, you can actually check this out. So we're doing a lot. So we're actually doing automation and manual. Okay. So so how do we collaborate in camps? So we collaborate in camps in different ways. So like I said, development in camps might be different. So we want to create a holistic QA process wherein it's applicable for all. So with that, we're currently doing process improvement within the camps. We're also doing regression testing. And since QA now is more collaborative, I'll be explaining that in a bit. We are also in we also review the features and specifications of new features. And also we created a handy portal or wiki. It's a comprehensive QA portal where it indicates how we test, how we create test cases. If you want to add test data, it's all there. So if you are curious or if you want to like add or link the Como accounts in your test accounts, it's also there. So we like creating wiki so that it will be helpful for everyone to test. So next is the QA process. So the QA process, so this is the team structure, currently the current team structure. So QAs are assigned to different camps. So in this case, like camp, within the camp, there will be a PM, EM, engineers, and QA. Um, and QA now is more collaborative compared before because we're assigned into different camps. So collaborative meaning we're also joining like camp ceremonies wherein we join the sprint planning, the syncs, the retrospective, the grooming as well. Um, Another point that I want to emphasize is this: that everybody on the team is responsible for the product quality. So it's not only QA that is responsible for the quality. Yes, we oversee the whole uh, overall quality, but it's everyone's job or responsibility to ensure the product's quality. So meaning even engineers, PM and EM should test the application. So I'll be speaking more about that in a bit. But yeah, each camp is responsible for quality. Um, Another is we're focused to increase the quality from product or customer perspective. That's why we're there in the camp so that because our tests are mostly focused on the customer experience. So at least we have uh like we can help in adding those kind of scenarios while creating test cases. So another one is we're a hybrid role. Like I said, we're also doing automation. So in camps, like for example, everyone can create a test case. So but it's everyone's responsibility like for the test case to be reviewed by everyone. And outside camp, we're also automating different manual tests. So we're leveraging both automation and manual because we want to make sure that the development cycle is stable and faster. Other than that, we also implement like data driven improvements. So this is by monitoring crashes and uh, production monitoring. So we also monitor the crash that is happening in the environment. If there's a crash, like we will report it immediately, and in production as well. Like for example, there's a specific area in the production app that is causing a lot of crash. We will um, provide the feedback for that as well. So here's the link for the current camp QA assignments. So you will see like not all camps has a QA, so that's why we also assist on camps without QA as well to implement their QA process. So next, the QA process itself. So like I said, the QA process, it's everyone's under the the role of the QA mostly in the camps is to make sure like everyone understand what QA is and testing means. It's a model of testing, and like I said, I will emphasize this again. It's the camp's responsibility of the camp quality in the camp. So everyone's responsible with their quality. So if we're gonna merge code, like even engineers, like if we're gonna merge a code, make sure to test it first. So and make sure to create unit tests for it as well, so that um we have like everything covered. Another is like I said, we create test cases and execute them. So usually QA create those test cases, but in a camp, we make sure to let the others know about our test cases. At least review it must be reviewed by everyone, so at least we know like all the scenarios. We're uh we're we're getting all the scenarios on that specific feature. So we're also doing dog fooding. So this is important actually, dog fooding. So at the end of the sprint, it depends on the camp. We're also doing dog fooding wherein we exploratory test the app based on the new features that we added. We're actually doing a term in testing which is the shift left testing, wherein we test early and often, and in thus the project can reduce the number of bugs and increase the quality of code. So again, shift left testing is testing early, putting the testing in the planning stage so that we will avoid like because if the bug reach out like at the end, it will cost a lot and it will take a lot of time to fix. So we want to make sure we test early and often as well. So in terms of the QA process, we also do bug triaging. So if we have a lot of bugs in the camp, we triage those into priority. And also, like I said, in the crash monitoring, we also monitor the crash for each camp as well. So next is the what is the goal of the testing process? So many teams actually, I'm not sure all or I've been with teams with following this. They rely too much in manual testing, and the unit test is super small. This is the not the ideal way, but the ideal way should be the one in the right. So we need to invest more in unit tests. So it's the dev's responsibility to create unit tests because um, if a bug is found in the unit test, um, it will not cost a lot because if you have to wait for the GUI test to finish and find those bug, it's a bit too late in the process. So as soon as like the bug is um, detected already in the unit test, you can fix it already without reaching this layers. So another reason why we want to avoid like doing to reach the bugs in the E2E part because E2E costs a lot of time and effort. So that's why it's important to have unit tests and it's important to have coverage as well. But in our case, since the application is big, we want to put importance to the important flows such as listing, payment, transactions. So we don't want to have like we have 20 test cases or automation tests for sign up. I think it's an overkill or too much. So we want to focus more on the important stuff, which is listing, payment, and transaction. So the higher you go, um, the higher the test fidelity goes, but the execution time and maintenance cost and difficulty to debug also goes up. So that's why we really rely on unit tests. And GU test is there for a safety gate, but yeah, we really want to emphasize the creation of unit tests as well. Okay, so we have additional infos here about this testing pyramid. So if you're um, curious, please just click on the link and just review it. So what is expected of developers and PM? So um, the expectation for developer is basically if you have a code to merge, test your code, uh, self-test your code, make sure that it's not affecting other other functionalities. So if you're unsure that it will affect, like for example, you change a log in the listing, if you're unsure that it will affect something, don't hesitate to communicate the QA. I think communication is important here. You can ask help. We can run our E2E test on your branch to make sure like it will not affect other functionalities. I think sanity checks are important here as well. And another one is we create test cases in TestRail. So TestRail is our test case management tool. So if you're curious, you can actually run your tests yourself, or we make our test like very easy to follow. And yes, actually, another point here is developer also helps us in creating automation tests. So our automation test is similar, like for example, in iOS, we're using also the same programming language, which is Swift, and they can actually run our E2E test. So if you create a code, if you're curious, like it will pass, just run our E2E just to make sure everything is working as expected. Another one is assure the quality of release features. So this is important because as soon as we put new features, we want to make sure like we have enough of automated tests to keep the checking the feature health is okay. Because if we merge bad code, it will just affect everyone. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Theo, for the first part. And for now, I will introduce you guys for the second part of this session. So yeah, for now, we are talking about the release process. So actually, QA not just testing in the camp or helping with the new feature in those camp. We also try to help in the release process as well, which we call this release judgment test, which we run the test before the new version of our application release. I can speak it faster again. So we actually doing a 1 week release. So you can see we got actually released on the Tuesday, sorry. And for the 1 week before on Wednesday, actually around 4 p.m., we will cut our branch from the master branch to a release branch, which goes to the target we want to release to our user. So in the Thursday and Friday, QA member will just help in this release judgment test. And if we found a bug, we will just ask the engineer to fix them. So you can see engineer will create another branch from here after everything fix it, and they will merge it back to release branch. So we will just test it again. And if we make sure every feature working fine as well, and we will just ask for the release owner, and probably in the architect team, they will help us to provide our new build to the App Store or the Play Store. So the App Store or Play Store, they can review our new build. And after everything is ready, we will just release our new version to our user. Yeah, and yeah, this is the master branch, which I just talked about it, but not sharing for that. So the master branch is like this. Engineer just merge their new feature on this branch all the times, but when we want to release, we will just cut it from the master branch like this, and if you merge after this branch code to the master branch, your new feature will just go through the next release. Yeah, and that is the release train for our application. And actually, for the web, we got a similar process, like create a release branch for the new release. But actually, we do it in the shorter period because in the web, we can deploy our new version of the uh, code to our user easily. Like we just need to switch the version in the web server, something like that. So we got a shorter period, and but we also test in the release branch with the whole QA member as well. So yeah, we will just cut the branch in Tuesday and we'll release on Wednesday for the web. So for the web, if you want to know more detail about it, you can see there's a Confluence page. And yeah, please take a look if you're curious. So next, we would like to talk about more in our release judgment test. As Theo mentioned before, we're also doing some regression tests in QA. So actually, what is regression test? It means that we are testing the Mercari whole app for the whole feature to make sure everything just works fine as it used to be. So sometimes when you are trying to develop a new feature, like you create a new feature in the searching, and you didn't change anything in the item detail, but sometimes you will just break some item detail part accidentally because the code sometimes just works together in the somewhere you didn't notice that. So to prevent these cases, QA runs the regression test to make sure the whole application feature works fine, and yeah, to protect our application. And for the next item, if you are change, if you want to make the change in the release branch, we actually will just retest it. So you can see the example here, which means when the release branch is cut, we will ask you to if we find the bug here, we will just ask the engineer to fix, and they will just merge back to release branch. So what was this going to happen? It's we make a new changes. So we need to make sure everything still working fine in these cases. So actually, we will just run our test again. So you can understand that is a lot of cost and a lot of effort as well. And yeah, actually, it's related to the next item here. Actually, we would like to avoid everyone to merge to the release branch after the branch cut. But the situation that I mentioned before is we found a bug in the release branch, so we will ask engineer to test again to fix it again, and engineer will merge it back. But it's something like when you couldn't make your new feature on time before the branch cut, but you still want to release in this version, and you will just merge into the release branch. That was not a good idea because, as I mentioned before, we need to test the whole regression test again if there's a new change inside. So actually, it's just costs a lot for everyone. And yeah, and also for the fourth, please avoid the last minute merge before the branch cut. So actually, we cut the branch in 4 p.m. But if you just merge like the in 3:50, that's kind of a danger because probably maybe you just not test your code enough, or you miss some test cases in just merging last minute in this kind of situation. So if there is a bug, we will just find it in the release judgment, and we will just ask the engineer to fix it again. So it just costs more effort for both QA engineer and the engineer as well. And for the worst cases, the bugs wasn't found in the release judgment. The bugs maybe will just go be found in the production, maybe from the customer or someone in who report to us. In this case, it's more worse because we probably need to do some hot fix for it. And yeah, it's not just like engineer or QA responsibility to just fix it. We need some manager to talk about, should we like roll back the new version of our code, or we how do we just apology to our users to make them make them happy. So actually there is not a pretty good idea to just merge the new feature at the last minute. So yeah, for from here, we would like to ask everyone to help that. Just make sure you test your new feature properly before you merge. Yeah, and the last one is, if you're trying to merge to the release branch, please contact to our QA facilitator. Actually, every week there's one person to assign the facilitator. If you connect to the guy, he will just schedule up all the stuff, and the QA member can help you to test it faster. Yeah, and here is the metrics for our release judgment. So the first one is how many test cases we are running. So we are on the 5.26 right now. So you can see we are almost getting like the 440 cases. So yeah, that's quite a lot. And it's still growing because we got more new feature coming up. So we need to update our tests all the time. So the number was just keep growing. And the next one is for the time, how much time we spend on release judgment. Every time, every version is a little bit different. It's because sometimes more people is helping in QA, but sometimes people maybe take the day off. So that makes it change a lot. But you can see it's like average in like 8 hours for every time. So it's almost 1 day for the time cost. Yeah. So the next topic is for the automation. So for now, maybe the topic was just go a little bit technically, but yeah, we will just keep it easy. So there's a definition about the automation. So speak shorter, it's like we actually run our code or our app by different software, which we actually call it like the test framework. So after we run our application, we will get some data. So we will compare the data to the expect data, which we provide, which we created by ourselves, to compare those data to make sure the application actually works like what we think it should work. So yeah, that's the simple context in the automation. So why we need automation? So actually, it's previously we can just run the manual test by the machine. So it just save a lot of time, but not just running by the machine. Actually, if you can prepare like 10 machine, maybe you can just reduce our runtime like 10 times smaller. So that is quite efficient, quite useful when we can use the automation. And for the next reason is we can focus more on the regression and the release judgment test, because we got like 400 cases we mentioned before. So we probably not want to make the human to run them all, because there's just too many. And actually, when human is running those test cases, sometimes we got some, we call the human error, because in some steps, maybe the people who is running the test cases, he just miss one step, and probably that just not just, if someone missed a step, probably would just not cover all of the part which we want to protect. So yeah, if we can do it in automatically, not just increase our coverage, but also we can just decrease this kind of the human error. So actually, we can also gain some benefit like in the multi-browser, because we can use the same code, automation code, to run on different browser like Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. And actually, we got more coverage, so our release will be more safer in these cases. Yeah, and the next one is we can fast the development release cycle. supported by CI solution. So the CI means some server on the cloud. So actually we can run our tests on those servers. So our test would just run faster than before. So actually the development cycle, as usual, we got like coding, testing, and release. If we can speed up the testing phase, the whole release cycle would just speed up. So yeah, it's pretty helpful in the fast whole development cycle as well. And the last one is the increase the quality on early stage of development. So this actually is means the shift left, which Theo mentioned before. We're trying to test earlier in the like the coding stage. If you right now we are provide some CI working on the PR. So every time engineer push a new commit, there is some unit test run by automatically. So that's what mentioned here, because if we got this kind of shift left testing, the engineer could found the bug earlier, and if they notice they create some bugs, they can fix it pretty quick. Because if we just found our bugs in like the release judgment, or even worse, we found it in the production, it just costs a lot to fix them. So yeah, the shift left is also a pretty huge benefit for the automation. Yeah, so next is for the coverage. So yeah, actually we mentioned this before. We use the test trail to create all test cases in the Mercari. So if you click on the link, you can see the case list in the test trail pages. And if you don't have the access, you can just go to this channel to ask someone to grant you the access. Yeah, and for the release judgment test, we got 60% in automation right now. So this coverage is we want to protect our application in the every important part doesn't break in the release. So actually we focus on the logging, home, search, listing, item detail, and the purchase, which is the most important part in Mercari, because if some of those features not working, the user probably can't buy something, or they can't find the stuff they want. So they will just become unhappy. So we want to prevent like this situation. So yeah, that's the most important part we want to cover. And the last 40% is still in manual, because probably they're still waiting for the automation, because QA members also assigned to the camp as well. So we don't got too much time to do the automation all the days. So that's why they are still waiting. But some of them are partially are not available for automation, because like when we trying to create a test case like purchase in the convenience store, we actually need some external API call based on like the ATM machine or something like that. It's not possible to combine with our test framework. So in some cases, they are partially not available to automation. Yeah, and there's also some test cases. We got a high cost in automation, but the low benefit. It's like if we try to test every condition in like searching, we select all category, or we spend a lot of time to do a lot of steps like selecting the button, but actually the user don't really use this kind of situation. It was just like we spend so much time to doing this stuff, but actually the user don't really do like this scenario. So that's the example for why some automation costs a lot, but benefit is so slow. So the next one is for the test stack for our automation test. So in ours, we run it on the XUA test, and the language is Swift, and we run our test on simulator and also on Circle CI as well. And for the Android, we use the Compose for the framework, and the language is in Catalan, and we run on the Firebase. And for the web, we run our tests on the playwright, and we written in TypeScript, and we run on a platform called Moon. Actually, the Moon is like a plugin in Kubernetes, help you to deploy or provide the browser in your cluster.